Britney Spears posted on Instagram that she fears the paparazzi, but is there anything she can do about it? Absolutely. Let's break it down. My name's Christopher Melcher. I'm a California attorney, and in representing celebrities, I've seen this issue time and time again. Fortunately, in California, we have the strongest anti-paparazzi laws possible. And I'm going to go through those laws and what a celebrity like Britney Spears can do to defend herself. But first, I'm going to go through some background. The post that Britney Spears did on Instagram talks about the ending of the conservatorship and how she's concerned about the paparazzi. She states, "I've worked so hard, but now it's here and it's getting closer and closer to ending. I'm very happy, but there's lots of things that scare me. The pops run through the trees and onto the road when I drive home, and it's creepy. And I have to drive by an elementary school. The kids are a big deal, but so am I. I don't like that they try to scare me and jump out like they do. It's like they want me to do something crazy." She is absolutely right to be concerned. Britney has been harassed by the paparazzi and even triggered by them. She's been swarmed in her vehicle so she can't even move. These interactions are highly offensive and dangerous, and I believe that paparazzi do these things to get a reaction out of the celebrity, to make them do something wrong so that they can catch it on tape and get even more money for the shot. And Britney Spears is not alone. I want to go through what's happened to Justin Bieber. On July 6, 2012, when Justin was only 18 years old, he was chased by 6 vehicles containing paparazzi who were trying to get photographs of him. Justin tried to drive faster and faster to get away from them. The speeds went over 80 miles an hour on LA freeways. This was extremely dangerous for everyone. There was no reason for Justin to drive that fast, but it's also understandable that he wouldn't necessarily know what to do and maybe panicked or was afraid. This is what makes it so dangerous. Now, one of the drivers, Paul Rafe, was located by police and criminally charged. It was one of the first uses of the anti-paparazzi vehicle code section that we have in California. The paparazzo challenged the constitutionality of that code section, saying that it unduly infringed on the right of the press, but the Court of Appeal denied that and said that the case could go forward. Only 6 months later, on January 2nd, 2013, another paparazzo thought that he had spotted Justin Bieber's white Ferrari parked on an LA street. As the photographer went back and forth across Sepulveda Boulevard, he was struck and fatally injured. Justin gave a statement right afterwards saying, "While I was not present nor directly involved in this tragic accident, my thoughts and prayers are with the family of the victim. Hopefully this tragedy will finally inspire meaningful legislation and whatever other necessary steps to protect the lives and safety of celebrities, police officers, innocent public bystanders, and the photographers themselves." They continued to follow Justin. And on July 26, 2017, as he was leaving a driveway in Beverly Hills in his monster truck, he accidentally struck a photographer who had walked up to the passenger side of the vehicle. That photographer then sued Justin for being hit. These incidents are extremely dangerous because if the vehicle's surrounded, the celebrity wants to move forward, but how can they do that safely when everyone's swarming the car? Because of incidents like this, we have California Vehicle Code Section 40,008, which makes it a crime to drive recklessly for the purpose of taking an image or recording of another for commercial purposes. The celebrity also has a right to sue the photographer under Civil Code Section 1708.8. That statute provides for civil damages against a photographer who trespasses upon property for purposes of taking an image or recording of an individual engaged in a personal or family activity which would be highly offensive to the subject. Paparazzi know about this law, and that's why they're not going to trespass. They're not going to enter somebody else's property without their permission. They're going to do so on public property. In Malibu, which is a beach town in Los Angeles where lots of celebrities live, paparazzi stand in the water to take photographs. It's not because they want to keep their feet cool. It's because in California, if you own beach property, your property line ends at the tide line. So the paparazzi will position themselves in ankle-deep water because it's absolutely clear that that is public property, and it's from that position that they will take their photographs. It's quite a sight to see if you're in Malibu and there is a celebrity walking down the beach of 20 or 30 paparazzi all standing in the water. Now, sometimes this doesn't go too well. There were a group of paparazzi that were taking photographs of Matthew McConaughey on a Malibu beach and were attacked by locals and surfers. Just because the paparazzi are on public property doesn't mean that they can take a photograph of whatever they want. Certainly, if the celebrity is exposed in public, they can be photographed, but they can't be photographed when they're inside their home. For example, the paparazzi cannot use telephoto or powerful lenses on their cameras to gather images inside the residence of the celebrity. They also can't use drones to fly over hedges and get pictures in the backyards of the celebrity. That is what we call a constructive trespass. Even though they didn't set foot physically on the property, they used technological means to essentially enter the property, and that's illegal. The photographer can be sued for invasion of privacy or false imprisonment, along with anyone who hired that person. Anyone who solicits, induces, or causes a photographer to take one of these illegal images can also be sued. And that brings us to the case of Richard Simmons, a fitness guru from the 80s. And in 2017, he had bowed out of the public limelight, and there were questions about whether he was okay. There was even a welfare check at his house to see where is he. In Touch Weekly, a tabloid magazine, hired a private investigator to get the story. That investigator, Scott Brian Matthews, illegally placed a tracking device on the vehicle that was used to drive Mr. Simmons around. And through that device, the investigator determined that Richard was sick. He had been going to the hospital for treatment, and they got a photograph of him leaving. When the tracking device was discovered, Richard Simmons sued the investigator and Bauer Media, which was the owner of In Touch Weekly at the time. The investigator was also criminally charged because it is a crime to place a tracking device on someone's vehicle without the permission of the registered owner. Bauer Media challenged that lawsuit, claiming that it had a First Amendment right to collect this information. Fortunately, the Court of Appeals shot down that argument and said, no, there's no First Amendment right to break the law to get images of a celebrity. So how can Britney Spears protect herself? Well, she could take a cue from Nick Nolte. When he was in Malibu with his young daughter and accosted by paparazzi, he got a water gun out and started shooting at them. I don't recommend that, but it is kind of funny and actually led to a whole bunch of photographs that were then widely distributed. What's more effective is to fight fire with fire, and that would be to hire private investigators and photographers to take pictures of the paparazzi, not to harass them, but to figure out who they are. And this is one of the problems. We have great laws in California, but when we have a swarm of paparazzi coming at a celebrity, how do we establish who was actually at the scene? Those photographs would identify the perpetrators and document their conduct, which is going to be essential for a criminal or civil prosecution. And just as important, finding out who they work for. Who did they sell those images for, and then suing the publisher as well. Britney Spears is so popular that I doubt anything could stop the paparazzi from going after her, but at least if people do block her movements, scare her, harass her, take pictures of her kids, take pictures of her in family or personal settings, they should be held responsible. So I do hope that she goes after them. But we as a society also play a role in this. The only reason why paparazzi are doing it is because they're paid lots of money by tabloids, and the only reason why tabloids are paying such sums to these photographers is because people buy their trashy magazines. I hope you found this information useful, and I will see you next time.